What's the one thing that separates a good website from a truly great one? A lot of the time, it's those little details. It's that feeling of polish you get from a perfectly smooth web animation. But we've all seen the other side of that coin, right? Yeah, we've all been there. You go to click a button, and the menu just kind of stutters into view. Or you're scrolling down a page, and the elements are lurching and lagging behind. It's frustrating for users and for us as developers. So what's the secret? How do some sites get those flawless 60 frames per second animations? Well, there's actually a name for this digital clumsiness. It's called jank. And listen, it's more than just a tiny annoyance. It's the enemy of a great user experience. It completely breaks the illusion of a fast, responsive interface, and it can make a whole app feel cheap and unreliable. So our goal today? To get rid of jank for good. To solve this, we can't just throw more code at the problem and hope for the best. Nope. We need to become detectives. We've got to go deep inside the browser's engine to figure out what's actually causing things to slow down. Okay, so I want you to think of your browser like a super high-speed factory. When you change anything on a web page, it kicks off this very specific assembly line process to make that change show up on the screen. And understanding this process, well, that's the key to everything. So this is it, the browser's rendering pipeline. It all flows from JavaScript to style. But the two steps that we really need to worry about are layout and paint. These two are the big bottlenecks. They are the most time-consuming, work-intensive parts of the whole process. This is where the browser has to calculate the size, the position, and the color of every single pixel. The final step, composite, that's where it all gets put together. So just remember, those two slow steps, layout and paint. And here it is. This is the light bulb moment. Every single time your animation changes a property that affects an element's size or its position, I'm talking about things like its width, height, or top position, you are forcing the browser to run that expensive layout and paint process all over again. And it has to do that for every single frame of the animation. That's the culprit. That's what causes jank. But what if I told you there's a way to bypass those slow, expensive steps entirely? Well, there is, and it all comes down to two magic properties that, honestly, every web developer should have in their back pocket. So think of it like this. You've got two performance lanes. In the slow lane, you've got properties like width and top. These are the ones that force the browser into that slow layout and paint traffic jam every time they change. But then there's the fast lane, the express lane, and it's reserved for transform and opacity. These are special because they completely bypass layout and paint, and they operate directly in that final, super fast composite step. Seriously, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. When you animate transform or opacity, you're basically telling the browser, hey, skip all that hard calculation work, just take this finished picture of the element and move it or scale it or fade it out. The browser can pass that simple job off to the computer's graphics card, the GPU, which is built for this stuff, and the result is that buttery smooth animation we're all after. And let's look at what this means in practice, with some real code. The bad way, animating the top property, forces what's called a reflow, a layout recalculation, on every single frame. It's just incredibly inefficient. But by switching to transform, we get the exact same visual effect, but with zero reflow. The browser just moves the element's existing layer. The process is orders of magnitude faster. It's a total game changer. Okay, so you've mastered transform and opacity. You are already way ahead of the game. But what if you want to give the browser an extra little boost? Let's talk about a power-up, the will change property. The will change property is, well, exactly what it sounds like. It's a hint you give to the browser before an animation even starts. You're essentially tapping the browser on the shoulder and saying, hey, see this element over here? Pay attention to it. I'm going to be changing its transform property pretty soon, so you might want to get ready for that. Think of it like calling ahead to a restaurant when you have a big group. Without that heads up, they have to scramble to get a table ready when you arrive. But if you call ahead, the table's all set when you walk in the door. That's will change. It tells the browser to get the element onto its own special layer ahead of time, so the animation kicks off instantly with no flicker or delay. But, and this is a really big but, with great power comes great responsibility. You have to use will change like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Every new layer it creates eats up memory, so you've got to be strategic. It's perfect for things that animate on user interaction, like a hover effect or a modal window. But please, do not just apply it to everything. And don't leave it on an element after its animation is done. Overusing it will actually hurt your performance, not help it. All right, You've got the theory, you've got the tools, there's just one final step. You need to verify your work. It's time to put that detective hat back on and prove that your changes are actually making a difference. Look, just relying on your eyes isn't good enough. What looks perfectly smooth on your high-powered developer machine might be a janky mess on a lower-end phone or an older laptop. The only way to know for sure is to use the diagnostic tools that are built right into your browser. So here's your toolkit, right inside Chrome DevTools. First, the Performance panel. When your animation runs, you want to see lots of green composite bars. Green is good. If you see big purple layout bars, you know you've got a problem. Next, pop over to the Layers panel to see exactly which elements are getting their own special layer. And finally, my favorite, go to the Rendering tab and turn on Paint Flashing. This will literally flash a green box over any part of the screen that's being repainted. It's undeniable proof of whether you're triggering that expensive paint step.
So let's bring it all together. This is your final checklist for creating silky smooth animations. Number 1, always stick to animating transform and opacity. Number 2, avoid those properties that trigger layout changes like the plague. 3, use will change as a strategic power-up, not a blanket rule. And 4, test. Always verify your work with the proper tools.
And there you have it. The power to completely banish jink is officially in your hands. You get the browser's pipeline, you know the 2 magic properties, and you've got the tools to prove your success. So the only question left is, what janky UI are you going to go fix first?